Hello and welcome to the next episode of my Learn With Me Hydrasynth series. This is episode 7, the filters, but first let's recap what we're doing here. Learn With Me is a series of series where I look at a synthesizer and you follow my end-to-end process of learning to get the best from it. In this case, it is the Ashen Sound Machine's Hydrasynth Explorer, an 8-voice digital synth with 37 mini keys featuring polyphonic aftertouch. So far, I've given you my first impressions, we've talked about the architecture, we've looked at the oscillators, we've looked at the oscillator effects known as mutants. I won't really talk very much about the mixer, we'll go back to that when we go into sound design, but today we're going to be talking about the filters. So let's get in a nit patch and let's experiment a little bit. You will note that there are two filters. These filters can be routed in series or parallel. That means that filter 1 can either feed into filter 2 or directly into the amplifier, and the mixer may feed filters 1 and 2, and those can be fed in parallel. So this allows us to do things like, on the Juno you had a high-pass filter which could be used to cut out some of the low end. That's possible here, though note that in that case that is a global filter, this is a per voice filter. So let's focus in on one of them. First, you'll note that there are a number of different filter types. The name LP means low pass, LDR means ladder, so this is a 12 decibel per octave ladder style low pass filter, corresponding 24 dB per octave or 4-pole. There is a version they call FAT, which means it has loudness compensation. So typically when resonance occurs, the resonant peak increases and the rest of the signal decreases, which has the effect of decreasing the bass end. So the FAT versions have loudness compensation. LP gate, meaning designed to simulate a low-pass gate, an MS-20 style low-pass and high-pass. They say this is a low-pass, band-pass, high-pass, simulating a boutique modular filter. We have their version of a Steiner-Parker low-pass, band-pass, high-pass, and then we have a very shallow 1-pole or 6 dB per octave filter, and a very steep 8-pole or 48 dB per octave filter. And finally we have, slightly different to the rest, a vowel filter, which adds an additional parameter called control. The rest of the parameters are common between the filter types. Let's go back to the default one. We've got a way to directly route some amount of envelope 1 to it. We can route some amount of LFO1 as well as envelope, so these dotted lines indicate those routings. We can adjust velocity scaling, key tracking, and for filter 1, or in the mixer, you have an option to select the routing of the filters. So these are routed in series. When you route them in parallel, I presume they are designed in such a way that the phases will be coherent on the output. I haven't confirmed that. We have a drive parameter, and we can specify whether the drive is coming into the filter or whether the drive is going out of the filter. So I think that covers all the basics. So let's just listen to the filter types and then let's figure out what we can do with them. So the filter controls can be done through these knobs here. So we have access to cutoff, resonance, and drive parameters, but they are also available on the panel for filter 1 and filter 2. So if filter 1 is selected here and filter 1 is selected here, you'll get a visualization of the filter. So let's do a sweep. It's resonance, more resonance. Try the drive. Definitely ups the gain a lot. So let's jump to the loudness compensated one. In fact, let's see what happens with the non-loudness compensated one at 24 dB when we turn the resonance up. So you can definitely hear a volume change there. Let's try the fat one. So I'd say that's a less pronounced change. Let's keep moving. The low pass gate filter type, turn the resonance down. Somewhat reminiscent of the ladder filter. Let's see what the drive sounds like. Pretty clean drive. Quite nice resonance. Keep going. MS-20. You get that vowely sound that you get on a real MS-20, which is nice. Let's try the high pass. Keep going. Low pass. So there are quite a few here, and I don't think it's worthwhile me going through all of them. But interesting, you can see the mouth shape indicated on the visualization. And then you have another dimension. So if you're unaware, one of the things which makes a voice sound like a voice, and one of the reasons why filter sweeps with resonance can give a vocal sound, is because a voice has a thing called a formant. A formant is a component at a certain frequency which doesn't track the rest of the pitch. So when you are sweeping a filter, the resonance of the filter is making the moving part, and the note you are playing is functioning as a formant. So this filter allows you to have some control over that. So you're able to, without adjusting the incoming pitch, you can use the control parameter to get some movement while keeping the cutoff fixed. So that's an interesting possibility. So let me jump back to the low pass. Let me get the resonance off. Let me turn the drive down, turn the cutoff up, and let's move to filter 2. So filter 2 has two modes. One, this is a morphable filter, by the way. This drive knob becomes morph for filter 2. So let's select filter 2. Filter 2 is selected. We can morph the shape of the filter from low pass to band pass to high pass, or low pass to notch to high pass. So let's just set this to some intermediate value, and let's experiment with it. So you can see here it's fully high pass, here it's a band pass shape, and here it is a fully low pass shape. Let's do a sweep. So I definitely enjoy that flexibility. Let's try the notch version. So the notch version sometimes gets some interesting sounds with the resonance, and let's have it all the way down. So in that case, we're pulling the harmonics out instead of putting the harmonics in. So let me go back to an init patch. And let's try and use the filter in somewhat more creative a manner. Let's use the default oscillator sound, and let's pick one of these filter types. What about this 3-layer? So I was just adjusting the second one when I didn't mean to. So let's go back to the first one. So I do like the sort of not quite resonance, but what I've heard described as a smudgy sound as that filter opens. So let's grab envelope 1, which is normally routed to this, and let's go for something that looks symmetric here. So 5 seconds, no, 5 seconds too long. 4-second attack, 4 seconds decay, 2-second release, and then we'll set the sustain by ear. Oh, Now we won't set the sustain by ear because I haven't actually routed that here. So let's root some of the envelope. Let's go look at the envelope. So at the moment that sounded a little bit odd because the amp envelope is not also following a reasonable path. So what I'm going to do is make the amp envelope be a little bit longer. So this is the envelope that can dominate. So we're going to go 5-second attack, 5-second decay, 2.5-second release. I'm doing this kind of mechanically because I don't want to spend too long on it. Already sounds pretty interesting to me. Let's experiment then with using this other filter as a high pass with some resonance to see if we can accentuate the frequencies and the bass. But by default, this has key tracking set to 0 because I want it to track. Key tracking will mean how much the cutoff will open in response to moving up and down the keyboard. 100% key tracking means that the pitch going up 1 octave in notes will go up 1 octave in filter cutoff. In other words, a doubling of frequency. Less tracking than that will go up less than a doubling. More tracking than that will go up more than a doubling. So with a high pass filter underneath, if we have more tracking, we actually get less bandwidth because the distance between the two filters will decrease as we go up. If we have it less than, then we're going to have more bandwidth to the signal as we go up. So I've set that to 100%. I think probably I'm not going to bother using the envelope at all here. I'm just going to set this. So let's put a lot of resonance on just so I can find the the resonance is way too high at the moment. So let's turn that down a bit. So I might have a tiny bit of envelope movement on this. So this one has 35 as the envelope amount. This one I'm going to set to 10. What I might also do, just for the sake of interest, is turn on a bit of velocity sensitivity. This one can be modestly velocity sensitive. Oops. This one can be a little less velocity sensitive, and the amp envelope can be more velocity sensitive than either of them. So let me just experiment with this. So let's listen in the high register and consider adjusting filter tracking. So it might be interesting to see what happens if we take down the filter tracking just a little bit. This one is currently at 100% filter tracking. So because the other one is less than 100%, this lower one is going to catch up with the upper one. But I think we need that to happen in this case. So back to the middle octave. So have a quick look in the voice settings if there's anything we'd like to change. I might turn on this warm mode and random phase, meaning the phase of the oscillators is randomized. I might bring on some alternating stereo width. Anything else? I'm going to add some of this analog flavor, which is going to detune the oscillators and the voices. I'm not going to do any unison. Now time to add some effects. I like the idea of some lo-fi effect on this, so let's add some delay. Try the LCR delay, left, right, center, so something like a ping pong but with a different flow. Let's have this quite long. So this is adjusting the brightness or darkness of the tone, so the feedback tone is brighter, so maybe I'll do this. And now I think we could do with some reverb, and maybe I'll try this cloud reverb. Oops, I set time to freeze. Much less high dampening, tone higher. Now let's adjust the wet dry. A post effect might be interesting to put a chorus at the end of this. Should be fine. So hopefully you can see that there are a pretty wide range of flavors of filter. They differ sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly. We have the capacity, which I didn't demonstrate, to run the filters in series or parallel. And in the mixer section, we have the capacity to control for each oscillator or the noise source or the ring mod how much of that signal is sent to a particular one of the filters. So when they're running in series, this means only a portion of the signal goes to filter 1 outputs to filter 2, and then the raw unfiltered signal of that oscillator passes through. So it gives us a way of potentially bypassing filter 1 in series mode. It also means that if we run them in parallel, we can choose to send only to one or other or some mixture of both. This is quite powerful, but I think until we get into doing some real-world sound design, it's going to be difficult to demonstrate this fully. So for now, I'm just going to try and play something. Let's see what it's like a little lower. F. You probably noticed when playing there that we were getting some voice stealing, and I think that's something that I run into quite a lot because I'm always tempted to make really long release pads, and then I'm almost always tempted to play many notes at once, so the result can be voice stealing. This doesn't have to be the case, and if I was not just demonstrating and I was doing some more produced music, then I would think more carefully about this and I would tune the release and maybe I'd lean in the reverb a little bit more. But in any case, I hope you've been enjoying the series so far. I hope you'll join me for some more episodes, but most importantly, thank you very much for joining me today, and goodbye.